This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guests today are Bharith Rao and Swapman from Leverj, the world's first scalable decentralized derivatives exchange. Leverj is a decentralized cryptocurrency derivatives trading platform created to perform like traditional financial exchanges while maintaining the critical function of security. And of course, Leverj is completely self-custodial by design, so traders always have control of their private keys. So on the show today, we have Bharith Rao, who is the CEO and co-founder at Leverj, and we also have Swapman, who I assume that's a pseudonym. But welcome to the show, Bharith and Swapman.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So guys, look, there's a lot to talk about today. And, you know, from one perspective, Leverj might just be the next big thing in DeFi. So I'm very excited to do this podcast. And there's a couple of things we need to understand. You know, first off, we need to understand what Leverj is, and then we need to understand the layer 2 solution that you guys have been working on that gives Leverj its secret sauce. And there's a new partnership with Brave New Coin to talk about as well. So as I said, hey, lots to talk about. Let's start with you, Bharith. You're the co-founder, you're the CEO. Do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us, you know, what's the background to Leverj? When did you start working on this?
Right. So we started working on this actually pretty early in 2014, 2013. We were, this is even before Ethereum existed. We were trying to see if we can do a real trading platform that would enable trading of derivatives. And in those days, there were really not a lot of derivative exchanges. Many exchanges were getting hacked, as it still happens. And we wanted to create something that is self-custodial. And in those days, the technology only allowed us to create something that was semi-self-custodial. Eventually, the gas fees and the congestion on the Bitcoin network became so much that we decided to look at Ethereum for two reasons. The main reason being that on Ethereum, we could make it fully self-custodial. And the second reason being the gas costs or the transaction costs on the blockchain were a lot lesser. And we started this project in early 2018 to pivot to Ethereum. The core piece really is the layer 2 solution, and Leverj happens to be one of the exchanges on top of it. I'll let Swapman speak more about Leverj. He's the product person. But the Gluon chain underneath is L2 solution, which means that there is really no gas cost per transaction, and all transactions on L2 are easily visible on an Explorer, just like you have block explorers for Bitcoin and Ethereum. You have a block explorer for Gluon, and there is no there is no cost on the main chain for every individual transaction. There's only cost to get on and get off. So in terms of the similarity, it is sort of, the cost is similar to a centralized exchange, in the sense when you deposit and when you withdraw, there's a interaction with the main chain, but after that, there is no additional gas cost. So we leverage the economics of a centralization, but we give the non-custodial benefits of using a private key to access and operate on the chain. Swapman, do you want to add something more about Leverj?
Yeah, sure. And just to give a bit of background about myself and how I got involved with the project. So I had first met Bharat back in about 2015-ish, and he was at the time starting up with CoinPit, which he had mentioned before. And the idea with CoinPit was that it was a Bitcoin-based exchange that was centralized but allowed you to use a 2 multisig in order to basically maintain custody of your funds, But then when you're trading, of course, and you make a position and you have to put margin down, then it goes into centralized custody. And I thought this was really cool because I originally got into Bitcoin similar to Bharat about 2012-ish. I think he got in a bit earlier. And what got me interested was, being your own bank and being in control of your own money. And the interest in derivatives also came about because with derivatives, you can use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and you can manage your risk and hedge your exposure however you want. So even if you are worried that the price is going to go down, then you can just short, Bitcoin dollar and maintain your value in dollar terms. You could also get exposure to stuff like gold, stock markets, anything. The power of derivatives is that it enables you to take full control over what risk you're taking in the market. So this combination between being in control of your money through crypto and with derivatives being able to control whatever exposure you have in the market with your money is, to me, the key to financial freedom. And so in 2015, when I got into the CoinPit project and was learning about it with Bharat, I think the first time we had met and were talking, it must have been like a 3 or 4 hour long conversation. It just kept flowing and flowing because we were like totally on board and speaking the same language when it came to the vision for how this stuff should work. So I had been a big supporter of CoinPit early on, but then going into 2017, as Bharat alluded to, the on-chain fees on Bitcoin got so incredibly high. It wasn't just a few cents to do an on-chain transaction when you were making a trade and it was trying to move funds into your margin account. It was actually becoming more like, first it was just a couple of dollars, and then it became tens of dollars, then it was like $100 just to move around at some point later in 2017. So this became a very difficult proposition in the market for traders who got really, really sensitive to these on-chain fees. And so then the more we were talking about this issue, the more Ethereum got more interesting as a solution. But we also were fully aware that blockchains in general do not scale on-chain. The layer 1 of the chain is something that the blockchain, if it gets sufficiently popular and enough people are using it, then you're going to run into the same issue that we had on Bitcoin. And so we moved over to Ethereum and developed the Leverj exchange on top of Gluon Plasma, which Bharat was describing. And Plasma is something that was really hot back in 2017-ish. Like they had just released the paper. Everyone was really excited about it. And then it sort of didn't get as much traction, but Bharat and the team were just working more and more on it and developing it into something better than even the authors of the paper had foreseen. And so that's where Leverj came into play. And so it's not a secret either that these days Ethereum is quite congested.
Yeah, look, that's right. And anyone who's playing in DeFi at the moment, I'm sure that's what you're about to say. We have seen the rise of Ethereum gas prices, and Leverj and Gluon is a potential solution for this. And look, I really want to dig into how exactly that layer 2 solution works. So we'll get to that. Let's just finish off on. I want to understand the state of Leverj as an exchange at the moment, right? So it's been live on mainnet as a spot exchange for some time. And am I right in saying that the derivatives trading or the futures trading is on testnet at the moment, but you're very close to deploying that to mainnet? Is that correct?
Yes, that's completely correct. That the official Gluon chain and Leverj as an exchange on top of Gluon was launched already a year and a half ago. And since then, we've been refining the technology and then getting it ready for the second application on Gluon chain, which is this futures trading, which is also part of Leverj. So we've got market makers that are preparing their systems in order to connect up to it. But the tech side is all in place, so that should be launching within the next month.
So that means it's about the end of August to the 30th of August as we record today. So sometime in September, and I believe that the first tradable futures products will be ETH-USD and BTC-USD perpetual swaps. Is that right?
That's correct, and it will be with the DAI as collateral. So if you put DAI on the Gluon Plasma chain on layer 2, then you can use that as margin to trade Ethereum versus dollar and Bitcoin versus dollar.
Fantastic. And so, yeah, I wanted to get your time frame on that. So you're saying September, so that's quite soon. Just talk to me really quickly. Is there a sort of a go-to-market strategy around this? You talked about market makers. I'm sure you have incentives for liquidity providers and partnerships, and I'm sure you have be doing some marketing and making some noise as all this goes live. So
the most important part of any derivatives offering, whenever you're giving people leverage on the order of 20, 50, 100 times, it's liquidity is the most important thing. So if you have a launch of a futures product and the books are completely empty, then anyone who's trading on there is going to be scared to take a position because they're not going to be sure if they can even close their position and have the liquidity to get out of it. So that's been the primary focus. And so Maker, who has actually made DAI and has the Maker Foundation and the Maker token, they are going to be actively providing liquidity on this. And in terms of the marketing, that's something that we're not going to be overly aggressive on in the start. We want to make sure that we focus on the liquidity being there and making grassroots efforts for people to get there. But we do have some marketing partnerships coming in the pipeline where we're hoping to make a much bigger bang in the market. We're also doing some UI changes, which will make it a bit easier for users to interact with.
Okay, all sounds great. And let's just cover off the Lev token. So there's a Leverj token as well, and I understand that you've updated the tokenomics for the token. So yeah, just why we're here, because there's obviously there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of hype around the various different DeFi tokens at the moment. What's the quick overview of the Leverj token?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the Lev token is really a governance token within the Leverj network. So what we're doing in the change that you referenced to the token economics is that we're going to put much more of the tokens in the hands of the community itself. So initially, we were positioning the token economics in such a way that as the network was early, we wanted to make sure that the team had enough power in the votes to make sure that it wasn't getting manipulated in any way. And then we were going to wait until the network gets strong enough and then adjust out the tokens more to the community, where basically the team tokens will be reduced significantly and will be transformed into a series of incentives for the community to provide liquidity to the exchange, so liquidity mining, which a lot of people in DeFi are familiar with. And then also staking the Lev tokens will give you these returns, which are occurring from all the activity on the exchange. So all the significant portion of the revenue is going to be dispersed out to anyone who is staking and taking. So they're taking their Lev off the market and they're staking it on chain, and they're going to be able to receive a pro rata portion of the revenue that the exchange is generating.
Fantastic. Now, I did mention your go-to-market strategy, and I also mentioned the partnership with Brave New Coin. So let's just mention that briefly. Here at Brave New Coin, I think most listeners will be aware that Brave New Coin is a crypto market data company. And, if there's any crypto market data product or an index, that's what our teams build. And I think, earlier this year, we launched the third generation of the Brave New Coin crypto index infrastructure. So that's on use on the BTC exchange. It's been licensed to the Toronto Futures Options and Swaps Exchange. So I guess, the context here is that Brave New Coin provides data and index solutions for everyone from Refinitiv, Amazon Alexa, Dow Jones, Factiva, and the NASDAQ. So I'm just hyping up our capabilities here. In fact, the best way to demonstrate this is it's a favorite party trick. Did you know that when you ask Amazon Alexa for the price of any particular crypto asset, her answer will come from the Brave New Coin data engine? And the best way to demonstrate this, of course, is simply to ask Alexa, what is the price of Bitcoin?
One Bitcoin is worth $11,700, up 1.6% over the last 24 hours.
Thank you, Alexa. So helpful as always. Okay, Barith, what's the background here? Can you talk us through the partnership between Brave New Coin and Leverj from your perspective?
All right. So as you guys know, many exchanges essentially create their own indexes. There's good things and bad things about it. The good thing is they can move fast, right? They can very quickly whip up a product. The bad thing is you have you lose a little bit of transparency, right? And it would be, I think it would be great if there is an index provider that can give the same reference index to both the exchange and any other product that is referencing that price, right? So for example, portfolio tracker or payment app or something like this. That would reduce any of these little deltas that can cause issues with the price differentials. So given that Brave New Coin is the premier data provider in the crypto space, we are very proud to have a partnership with them. And we have plans to create very interesting products based on indexes and other data that Brave New Coin can come up with. I'm just going to give an example. I'm not going to, I'm not making any kind of, product announcement or anything like that. Just a technical example.
Sure.
Assume that there is a DeFi index, right? That Brave New Coin can create. We could, anyone could create a leverage product on top of it. So that is the sort of, I think, it's a great partnership when you think about it that way. So we are very proud to have partnered with Brave New Coin.
Very nicely said, Barith. And you're right. I mean, that's the power of index products, is you can create an index for anything really. So, it could be the example you used, like a DeFi token index. You'd get a lot of interest out of something like that, I think, or like a privacy coin index would be another product that you could create, right?
Yes, privacy, layer 2, cross-chain. I mean, there are sectors that, traders are interested in, and a very carefully designed index, I think, could be very powerful to create products that reflect the user's interest in those sectors.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, look, let's bring it back to this layer 2 solution. Swapman, sorry, I interrupted you before just as you were starting to launch into it. So let's bring it back to the current state of Ethereum, this year, as the use and interest in the DeFi ecosystem has just exploded. The liquidity vortex at the center of DeFi is just attracting all this interest from everywhere, and of course the effect of that on Ethereum gas prices has seen gas prices go up, and so that's put some considerable pressure on DeFi. So I suppose that's the context. So Gluon, Plasma, Layer 2, what's happening here, guys?
So as I was saying at the beginning, when the team was shifting over to Ethereum, we were 100% aware of the same issue that is fundamental with blockchains, which is that on the layer 1, they do not scale. And so that's why the second project on Leverj was focused on layer 2, because in this context, we can actually scale it, and then we can leave a minimal footprint on layer 1, so such that it will actually scale. Anyone who's been doing these more complex smart contract type transactions on Ethereum lately. So I was doing one just the other day, and I spent $50 on the transaction because of the size of the transaction, because the gas fees at the time were quite high. And this is just something that people have gotten used to. And it reminds me entirely of 2017 and Bitcoin when it was congested to that degree. And obviously there's a lot of profitable opportunities that make it such that it's worth it still to do these really expensive transactions. But within Plasma on layer 2, once you have done the transaction into the Plasma, the Gluon Plasma contract, that's where your funds are then being stored on chain. You still have access to them because it's only your keys that are able to take those funds from the smart contract back onto your address on layer 1. So you're retaining custody. It's still self-custodial, non-custodial. And so once you're in the Plasma layer 2 space, you can then transfer whatever asset you have moved on there, whether it's ETH or whether it's an ERC20 token. You can transfer it to other people without any fees. You can trade without any kind of on-chain fees. You're gonna have to pay trading fees on Leverj for the exchange. And like I said before, those fees end up being to the benefit of the Lev stakers. But outside of those actual exchange fees that you're paying in order to trade, you're not leaving any kind of on-chain footprint, which is going to cost you money. So there are certain other competitors, I won't mention names, but they have quite a heavy layer 1 footprint, and this ends up leading to a lot of on-chain transactions, which either the exchange has to pay for or you end up having to pay for as the trader. So the whole benefit of layer 2 is that once you're in the zone there, once you've moved on to layer 2, you can move around freely without having to pay all of these expensive gas fees. And so we think that both the use case of being able to transfer assets, so both ETH and ERC20 within layer 2 on Gluon Plasma. So if other exchanges wanted to connect into Gluon Plasma, they could easily do that, and you could move around Ethereum assets very, very cheaply because once you're in Plasma, you just move it to another address, and then you can put it back into layer 1 after you've moved it somewhere else on, say, a different exchange, for example. So that's one use case. And the other use case is just trading spot, which you've been able to do for the past year and a half or so, and then trading futures on Leverj, which is coming in the next month.
That's right. And it sounds like you guys are in a bit of a unique position because, you know, from you kind of, even though everyone was aware of the scaling limitations of layer 1 blockchains, you know, you guys have been working on Gluon for what, 2-3 years, and so am I correct in saying that you are, you know, you talked about some competitors who we don't need to name, but you know, the high fees on some of those other dexes and exchanges. How far ahead of those exchanges are you at the moment, and does that mean that they potentially can also utilize Gluon and other participants in the DeFi ecosystem could do the same thing to try and reduce the gas prices, right?
Right. So there's a few solutions that are trying to solve the same problem, and they are, you know, they are using different approaches, and they are not entirely, you know, there's no perfect solution. It's a bunch of trade-offs, right?
Of course.
Many of these products are using what I would call layer 1.5, which is essentially, instead of putting an entire trade on chain, they put a small piece of the data that that enables people to see that yes, a trade has happened. And it is just more compact representation of the trade, but it's still essentially layer 1 because there's a cost per transaction. And what happens is that there are limitations that you cannot get away from when the price of the underlying asset increases, right? So economics will always beat you. As an outline for listeners, you know, when they designed the system, the cost was around 1 cent a trade, and now it's already 2 cents a trade. So imagine if Ethereum goes to like 1400 again, or even beyond that. So now it will be 15-20 cents a trade. That aside, there is a gas limit on Ethereum. So there will be a point when the gas prices will become exponentially more expensive. This is just like when there's a crisis in the, you know, in the oil producing countries. The price just doesn't go up 10%. because when the consumption goes up 10%, the price goes up 100,000 or even 10,000%. So essentially, that economics they won't be able to escape, right? So our viewpoint has always been the same. If you want to be a true L2, you have to have only on-chain and off-chain costs, and you should not have intra-chain costs at all on the L1 chain. So we realized that economics essentially is undefeatable, and we wanted to win on the economics. So that is our primary focus, is to make something very smooth, very fast, very economically efficient, and give the most transparency to users as much as possible, and worry less about ideological purity, whether something is proof of stake, proof of work, this and that. I mean, those are in the end, no one really except purely technological guys worry about it. So the advantage we have, coming back to to summarize the answer, is that we saw all the problems 3 years ago, right? Congestion, the fact that you cannot have a model which has a cost per transaction, the exponential increase in gas fees near margin, when there is the marginal price increase becoming exponential as the space fills up, latency being more of a factor in terms of the trading viability, right? So if your latency increases even by 1 second, then a lot of trading strategies become unprofitable. So things like that. So we have designed it primarily to have a enjoyable and profitable experience, rather than any sort of ideological purity. So I believe it's all about what is a good product, what is a good fit, and who can deliver it, rather than which technology is being used. In the end, it's the product. It's not the no one really cares what's in your TV as long as the picture looks good.
Yes, indeed. And look, I love the way you described it in the middle there. You said something like designed it to win on the economics, which is it's a good way of describing it. And you also mentioned the transparency. You've got to have the transparency. That's what that's critical for blockchain. So for the Gluon layer 2 chain, I believe you've created a blockchain explorer, the Gluon Explorer, right? So that means it's like Etherscan for your layer 2 chain, right?
That is correct. And I've seen many attempts at layer 2, and none of them have a decent explorer. When I say decent explorer, I mean that the thing that the data that the explorer displays has to be in the language or the domain of the problem it's solving. So on our explorer, you can see orders, you can see for futures, you can see positions, margin, the balance. You can see funding, you can see fees, you can see liquidations, you can see deleveraging, you can see all of that. If you just claim to have an explorer and you put like an opaque set of bytes that no one can verify, that no one can easily associate with the actual actions you've taken, then that explorer is meaningless. You need to the whole point of having an explorer is to have a ordinary person without a PhD in cryptography to be able to look at it and say, yes, this is what I did, and I see it on the blockchain. If I do this, I expect to see this kind of entry. If this happens, I expect to see this. And then that way, the Explorer is useful. It gives predictability. You can build things on top of the Explorer. For example, you could build a liquidation announcer. You could build a top 10 trading leaderboard, things of that nature. So it becomes a lot more, the data is meaningful and useful. So that is the kind of Explorer we've built.
Yes, indeed, and that is it's essential for people to be able to trust that they can use that chain with confidence. So that is great to hear. Hey, look, so 2020, this has been an incredible year for DeFi, and I'm sure you guys have watched the the growth and rise of DeFi with equal combinations of excitement and trepidation. But yeah, I'd love to get some thoughts from both of you on just what you've seen happen this year and what you expect to see going forward. What excites you and what scares you?
Yeah, so I would say that, I mean, the whole space is exciting, obviously, because there's so many new projects which are starting, and they're doing it in such a way where it's a truly fair launch. So they're not doing, token sales to raise funds and then, do a sort of traditional ICO mechanism like this. A lot of them are just starting out by no team tokens are received, no sale is being done, and the only tokens that get minted are minted to those who are using whatever protocol they put together. It's Compound was one of the first that popularized this because there was a lot of lending going on their protocol, so that people could earn freshly minted comp tokens. And then you got, of course, the like Curve, which is doing these stablecoin, like Uniswap style exchange, where you can also provide liquidity by giving stablecoins in there, and then you get a pretty solid return. And then the projects like YFI, which is really done this proper fair launch that I was referring to, and I think this is a pretty exciting because it gives anyone the opportunity to participate in the tokens which are getting minted and distributed to the actual users of the product. So that's, I think, the most exciting, is that it's really community-based and driven. I think what concerns me is probably how many joke projects are being launched on this with unaudited contracts. The recent YAM project, where they ended up losing pretty significant amount of funds because they didn't properly audit the interaction between their rebasing contract and the actual governance side of the contract. So that ended up being kind of a disaster for them. And I think that it's more and more risky that you get these projects which are glorifying the idea of just YOLOing it and putting millions of dollars onto unaudited contracts. That it's something that could spiral into the wrong direction, where maybe even more funds are lost, and that could hurt the credibility of DeFi as a whole. And there are some solutions to this which are pretty interesting, but I think that between the gas fees that we were discussing earlier on Ethereum, which are extremely problematic because all DeFi is a bunch of smart contract transactions on Ethereum, which are getting more and more expensive. I think that's a problem. And then also this potential blasé attitude towards security and, using audited contracts, that this could potentially lead to some issues which harm everyone.
Yes, and Bharith, thoughts from yourself?
Yeah, so I think the opportunity and the raw creativity and talent in this field is something I've not seen. I think the last such event was during the late 90s, during the internet boom. I see really things that were unimagined in the traditional finance. People with little to no background, but a lot of creativity in finance are creating products that are evolving at a rate that even the traditional financial world is simply too it's just frozen. It looks like it's paused in time compared to the rate at which crypto and DeFi is moving. And I think this is very, very powerful. This is going to do great things for the world, and it's also scary because you don't know where it's going. You don't know the social impact it's going to have. Swapman already mentioned financial damage. But we will be in a world where things may be uncomfortable. Things are so different, we don't know how to cope with them. But the brave will figure things out. The smart will find convert this into a great opportunity, and I'm excited for the future.
I'm excited too. All right, well, that feels like a nice place just to go to a very quick break, and then we'll have a go at the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round, and then some closing thoughts on Leverj and the groundbreaking Gluon Layer 2 scaling solution. Back in 1 second.
Whether you're an enterprise fund manager or a retail trader, buying and selling cryptocurrencies successfully requires price discovery you can rely on. Brave New Coin's liquid indices provide trusted US dollar prices for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. Featuring end-of-day or intraday outputs, you can count on the BLX, ELX, and XRPLX for accurate US dollar pricing for smart contract oracles, settlement price discovery, net asset valuation, and performance analysis. Visit bravenewcoin.com to find out more.
All right, we're back, and I am with Bharith Rao and Swapman from Leverj, which is the very exciting new decentralized derivatives exchange. Derivatives goes live on mainnet in September, and so we've just been discussing off air that Swapman is going to do the Crypto Conversation hot take round. So let's get into it, Swapman. I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid fire Crypto Conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Yeah, definitely. Sounds cool.
All right, I just want your hot takes, your hot fire. Take your best shot. Here we go. Where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
Oh, I mean, I love trading all kinds of crypto, so I would put myself like somewhere in the middle.
Very nice. Okay, well, Swapman, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I think my firmest conviction is that Bitcoin will remain the most valuable crypto asset in our lifetimes.
Very nice, very nice. The reserve asset of crypto and eventually the world. Now, Swapman, I ask every guest this question, but who do you think wins the American presidential election 2020?
I think Donald Trump will win the second election, yeah.
Okay, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Well, Bill Gates famously said, "We tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. What do you think blockchain or DeFi, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
I think we're going to reach a point where the legacy financial system, which is stuck trading between 9 to 5 on weekdays, that we're used to trading things 24/7, and I think that's going to be reaching the legacy financial system. So they're going to be bending more and more to what we're used to in our markets.
Very nice. I very much agree. Well, sci-fi author William Gibson, he famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example, Swapman, of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
I mean, it has to be crypto itself. I think that, guys like us, we're on the frontier of this technology and of these markets. And it's shocking just how many people in the world haven't heard of Bitcoin and aren't aware of the leaps that we are making technologically and how it's going to impact all of their lives. So, I mean, what better example than crypto?
I completely agree. All right, let's zoom out though, Swapman. What do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Yes, it's a bit of a deep one, but do you see dystopia or utopia?
I'm going to go with dystopia on that because I think that the inequality that is in the globe, I don't think that technology fixes this. I think there's always going to be powerful taking advantage of the vulnerable.
Yes, and that has kind of been the story of 2020 to date. All right, well, we're almost done. We're getting close to the finish, Swapman. Finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, show, or universe?
Ooh, so it's kind of science fiction, but there's I don't know if you know the author Gabriel Garcia Marquez and 100 Years of Solitude.
Oh, yes.
It's not really science fiction, but it's kind of, it kind of has that feel sometimes when you're reading the book.
Yeah, sci-fi adjacent. All right, no, that's a good choice. I'll look into that and put a link in the show notes. And finally, Swapman, I do have to ask, Swapman, what's the meaning behind the Swapman name?
Right. So I've been developing different financial instruments in legacy and crypto for a bunch of different institutions, both total return swaps and perpetual swaps and all kinds of other derivatives. So it's a nickname that was given to me basically, and I adopted it then on in my crypto life.
Fantastic. All right, it's always good to get the background to people's names. Well, gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Nothing else to say really, except to hand the microphone back to you guys. Perhaps Barith, if you're still there, you want to hop back in. Why don't you just give us the sort of the closing pitch on what you guys are doing with Leverj and also with the Gluon Layer 2 Plasma solution. So why should people go to Leverj to trade, and where do they go if they want to learn more there? And if there's perhaps other DeFi people who are pricking their ears up at the Layer 2 solution, where can they go to find out more?
Right. So you can go to leverj.io or you can go to our Telegram channel, which is at Leverj. I believe that so far we've seen the promise of crypto, and to make this promise a reality, to take this beginning and send it all the way to completion, you need something like Layer 2. And right now, the most comprehensive, the most transparent, and the most developed Layer 2 is what we built. And you should come and join us, help us build on top of Gluon. And I let Swapman add something about the Leverj exchange.
Yeah, I mean, if you're tired of these Ethereum gas fees and you want to jump on the Plasma exchange, which allows you to engage in high-speed centralized trading while you're still in control of your funds, go to leverj.io and try it out. It's easy to try with some low amount of funds, and we're going to have futures in the next month. So get excited, but you can already trade spots as it is now. So we've already got it running.
Boom. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All the best, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, listeners. That was today's show. Links are in the show notes to the Leverj platform, and also a link to the Brave New Coin website. If you need any kind of crypto asset, data product, or index built, get in touch. We can help. Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic to watch how the rise of Leverj plays out and see the rollout of their product pipeline, of course, powered by the Brave New Coin crypto data engine. So, hey, exciting times in crypto, and yes, the journey continues. But hey, that is us for today. We are out of here. See you real soon. See you next time. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave